Welcome to the Inspiring Women of Iowa podcast, a special series amplifying the stories of the Inspiring Women of Iowa finalists. Inspiring Women of Iowa is an annual event hosted by Girl Scouts of Greater Iowa with the goal of celebrating women of courage, confidence, and character who are making the world a better place. And why does that sound familiar? Well, because it also happens to be the mission of the Girl Scouts, where they believe society is better because strong women show girls that anything is possible. This event was created by Girl Scouts of Greater Iowa in 2017 to celebrate women in our community and share their stories, while raising support for the Girl Scout programs that build the next generation of inspiring women. 16 individuals are celebrated annually with the Courage, Confidence, Character, and Inspiring Advocate for Women awards. I'm your host, Teresa Peterson, Caramel Delight enthusiast, and I'm honored to have the chance to speak with these amazing, inspiring women and to share their stories with you. Joining me today is Diane Dornberg. Diane is the managing attorney at the Iowa Center for Children's Justice and an experienced family law attorney, mediator, and parenting coordinator. She has spent decades advocating for families and children in Iowa's legal system. She has been nominated for the Inspiring Advocate for Women Award. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you, Teresa.
What should we know about you and your work?
Well, my work is the best job in the world. I represent kids whose parents are fighting over them. That sounds nice on the surface, and then you think about it, Teresa, like you just did. You think about it for a few seconds, and you go, oh, that's hard.
Yeah.
It is. It is. So we represent kids between 6 and 60, well, adulthood usually.
Yeah.
Whose parents are fighting over them for some reason. And so some of the reasons that we might be appointed to represent kids in fights between their parents are if somebody wants the child to testify in court, if somebody wants the kid's mental health records admitted as evidence in court, if the parents have a 16-page docket where they're constantly in court fighting over their kids, if a child is refusing contact with a parent, those are all kids that should be represented by their own lawyer. And that's chiefly what I do. We do some other things. We have divorce workshops for all the kids between 6 and 16 in Polk and Dallas County whose parents are getting divorced. And we're getting ready, hopefully, to expand that into Warren County. But it's an hour-and-a-half workshop, 3 different age groups of kids, little kids, middle schoolers, and high schoolers, to give them some support, to know that they're not alone, to know that what the terms are that their parents are using, mediation, custody, things like that, and to give them some coping skills. That's the other big thing that we do. And then we do some things that other people don't. We are both mediators. Steve Belay is the other lawyer here, and he and I are both mediators. So we do mediation in other cases. We also represent kids in their parents' mediation. But we do something that's really different, and that is that we have child-inclusive mediation, where if we are the mediators, either the 2 of us together or just one of us would talk with the child and bring the child's interests into the mediation. And basically, it's 2 questions that we ask kids before mediation. What would you like your parents to agree on? And how would you like things to be different when this mediation is done? So those are the things that we do here at Iowa Center for Children's Justice. Steve and I are both parenting coordinators, and that means after parents have gone to court, said every horrible thing they can think of about each other, know what the other person really deep in their heart thinks about them. The judge gives a decision, which the judge knows is not going to solve anything. But now they have an order, a parenting plan produced by a court based on some knowledge. And then when I'm the parenting coordinator, I sit down with these parents and we try and figure out how they're going to be parents together for the next 13 and a half years.
Right.
So those are really tough things, but it's all child-focused.
Mm. There is so much in what you just said. Like, and I want to sit with it for a second of something I'm thinking about. I mean, my mind is a little bit blown. So there's so much to process here. I'm absolutely in love with this idea of kids having their own representation because I think, for those of us who have gone through something like this, it's impossible and it would be unhealthy to try to bottle everything you're feeling as the mom or the dad or whatever the role is. I love this idea that the child has that safe space, someone who can just see the best interest through a different lens or with more clear eyes than the people in the heat of it. What, for anyone listening who might have gone through this, might be going through it, or even contemplating going through a divorce custody situation, and as a mother of 10 yourself, like what should we think about? What should we be conscientious about? Even if we're supporting a friend who's going through this, like what are some of those takeaways about how to really support kids and navigate this, whether you're the aunt or the mom or the uncle or the great neighbor, like how does that look to you?
So I'm gonna tell you what we tell kids the first time we meet with them.
Mm,
The first time we meet with kids, we get we have the parent in the child's presence tell us that it's okay for that child to talk to us about anything. That's
yeah.
step 1. Then when I am face to face with my client for the first time, the very first thing is I ask, "Why do you have a lawyer?" So I can get a feel for what they understand. But then the
Mm,
first thing I tell them is, "You have a voice. I am your voice in this process. You don't have a choice. The decisions are made by your parents, and if your parents can't agree, then the decision will be made by a judge." Second thing is, you never, ever have to choose between your parents.
yes,
Somebody might tell you you have to choose. The truth is,
yes.
you do not have to choose between your parents. And even if you do choose between your parents, you don't have to say that you choose between your parents. You do not have to make a preference. And the third thing is that unlike anybody in the world, what you tell me is just between you and me.
Mm,
Your therapist, your priest, your teacher, your school counselor may tell you it's just between you and me. But the truth is that if they got served with a subpoena and the
yeah.
judge ordered them, then they would have to say what you have said. Not me. I'm your lawyer. Everything that you tell me is just between you and me, and I will not tell another person without your permission. And to prove that in this first meeting, I don't even take notes. I do not have
Mm,
permission. After this meeting where I'm just getting to know you, I don't want permission to share anything that you have said because I won't. I won't have
yeah.
notes. I won't tell anybody what you have said. And
Yeah.
most of the time that opens the floodgates,
Mm,
especially, strangely enough, teenage boys who come in, they'd rather be lifting weights, and I tell them those 3 major things, and they start talking. For 90 minutes, they talk,
mm,
and it makes me wonder, does anybody listen to what these people are saying?
mm.
Um, so, the idea of giving kids a voice in these cases is an idea that I had when I was in law school at the University of Michigan in the 1970s. I wrote a paper about it for my family law class, but
Mm,
I never did anything about it. Jenny Schultz in Cedar Rapids started Kids First, and she got the idea going. But there are very few places in the country that have representation for kids in family law matters.
Yeah.
It's required in juvenile court cases, but in family law, there's very few programs in the country. There may be some in California and Massachusetts. There are some in Canada and Australia and New Zealand, but we are quite unique in giving kids a voice. You were talking about relatives, family members,
Yeah.
and how parents are so engrossed in their own story.
Yeah.
So another situation where we recommend that the kids be represented is if both parents or either one or both of the parents are not represented by a lawyer, because
Mm.
parents who are going through these things, who are going through contested custody, divorce, difficult, heartbreaking family law
Mm.
matters,
Mhm.
uh, they are engrossed in their own story. They've convinced themselves of their own story. They've convinced their relatives and their lawyer of their story, and they're pretty sure a judge is gonna believe their story. Um, but having the child's voice in the room means a couple things. One is it's a visible reminder that there are kids that we're talking about, live
Mm.
human beings who have interests and feelings that we're talking about. And sometimes we have background information that a judge, even the best judge asking the best questions, wouldn't be able to figure out to ask unrepresented people. And
Mm.
so we can ask questions of the parents that the judge would not think of asking. Plus, we also typically file something that says what outcome our client wants.
I I love all of this so much, because I worked with young people for decades, right? And there's just something so incredibly resonant and meaningful to me about what you're doing. And also, I just want to celebrate or like call attention to that point you made so beautifully that, like, is no one listening to some of the kids? Is no one asking? And that we often make assumptions about young people that they don't get it, they don't really understand what's going on, or we're, again, maybe someone's so engrossed in their own story they're not checking in with their child. And so the idea of having a space that honors them, that feels like it, like what I hear from you is honoring them, giving them space, giving them voice, and assuming that they do have an understanding, right? This is their
Yes.
this is their real life. Like, how does that, what else should we be thinking about, in terms of like hearing the voice of young people, asking those questions, challenging those assumptions of what we think they get or don't get? Like, how does that look through your eyes? And I'm thinking about the little everyday stuff to the big things that you're talking about.
Well, of course, it depends on what's involved in the case, but we have various ways to ask.
Mm.
Preferences without asking preferences. Um, like, "Where do you keep your precious things?"
Mm,
That's
gosh.
questions like that. People say, "We don't wanna put the kids in the middle." Well, the kids are in the middle. They are. Their life is affected more by this than anybody else's
Yeah.
life is affected
Yep.
by this. So, we say, "Let's take the child out of the middle, but put the child in the center of the problem
Mm.
solving. Put the
Oh,
child in the center of it."
that reframe. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I got so excited. Like, that reframe is gold. I mean, like, to come out of the middle and into the center. Ooh, like, Diane, I'm gonna be chewing on that for a long time, by the way. I'm gonna be texting my friends that when we are done with this with this.
Good.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, so I'm sorry, go back to that, but, like, the sense of out of the middle into the center, and how does that change how the child is able to show up or able to cope? I would imagine that stance feels maybe soothing, maybe empowering, I think in the best case, but what do you see?
Well, we always ask. We always ask, "What can we share? What can we share
Mm,
with your parents?
yeah.
What what what's just between you and me, and I'll never tell anybody else? What can we tell your mom? What can we tell your dad? What can we tell the lawyers? What can we tell the judge? And we get permission, and it's very specific. Some kids want to talk to the judge. I had a 15-year-old boy who said, "You bet I want to talk to the judge." He put on a suit and tie, and he came down and he testified in the courtroom in open court in front of both of his parents. And he said,
Wow.
"I did it. I did it."
Gosh, I love
Um,
that.
and some kids don't want to say at all. Kids know what's going on. They know what's going
Yeah.
on. They know if the parents are arguing on the deck instead of in the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Kids know what's going
Yeah.
on. And sometimes kids are very clever and will say verbatim, identically to what the parent said. And that is such a powerful clue to coaching. The kid knows exactly what they're doing. They're saying
Yeah.
exactly what the parent told them to say, and it is not a
Yeah.
third grader's language.
Right. Right. Right.
So one of the questions that I ask kids when they come in, not the first time, but in subsequent visits is, "Was there anything you were supposed to remember to tell me today?" And it's such a it's an uncoachable question,
Yeah.
and it gives the kids permission right off the bat to say, um, whatever they've been told they're supposed to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And then they get that out of their head. They don't have to be thinking about it anymore, and then we
Mm.
can move on to the next thing. It's that kind of permission. So, permission looks different. Sometimes a child will say, "I don't really want to do this, but the only way to make this work for me is if I say this. So, just between you and me, this is not what I really want, but that's what I want to write down."
Mm.
So,
Sure.
it really looks different depending on the kid and what they want shared. I think she was 13 at the time, and she really, really wanted to move from moms to dads. And mom had severe mental health issues, and so what we wrote on the paper that we gave to the judge was that she wanted a decision that was made in her best interests.
Mm.
She didn't wanna say, "I wanna live with dad." She wanted to say, "Whatever you decide is in my best interest." But her additional request was, when the judge makes a decision, I want to be in my lawyer's office without my parents here."
Yeah.
So the judge said, "This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna log on to Zoom at 12:30 during the lunch break, and I wanna talk with Diane and kid, at 12:30. I will tell her on Zoom what the decision is, and then at 12:45, I want Diane to turn off your camera, and I'm going to turn on the parents' cameras, so you can see the parents, but the parents can't see you, and then I will tell them the decision."
Mm.
And it was such a good process because this kid got to see the human being, the judge who was making the decision
Yeah.
in her case, and he got to see her and got to
Yeah.
see her jump in the air for joy
Mm.
because he had decided that it was in her best interest to live with her dad. Um, so, we try to come up with things that work for this particular kid, and then we get feedback. I think you may have seen Maddie's feedback already. I think her introduction of me about
Mm.
what it was like to be a kid represented by
Yeah.
us and how that affects her life and
Yeah.
how she sees herself, how she sees her parents.
Yeah. I mean, for the long haul, that's what feels so lasting about when you think about, I mean, I'm thinking back all the way, the 60s and protests and law school and 10 children and this role. What are you really proud of? What sticks out to you as something that when your head hits the pillow at night, you think, I feel so good about that?
But I took the dog for 2 walks today.
Thank you. That is excellent. That on top of it all, you did a little something for you.
Well, these are difficult times, and
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's struggling with things that are going on in the
Yeah.
country
Yes.
with ice and wars and all kinds of
Yes.
things, the climate and all of those things,
Mhm.
and trying to figure out what role do I play? What can I do about this?
Yeah.
Um, and fortunately, Iowa Center for Children's Justice has the word justice in its name. And I know what I do every day, and I know that it is justice for kids.
Mm.
And I can't do everything, but I can do this. And I think it makes a difference. Having
Yeah.
nothing that you can do that makes a difference, I think, would just be devastating. So knowing that it's in the name of what we do
Mm.
every day that um, that I feel good about. Boy, I don't want to retire. Why retire from the best job ever?
Yeah.
Um, it's great.
With all of that heaviness, knowing how much you love your job, and with all the heaviness, how do you stay inspired? And also, how do you take care of yourself?
Well, my number one how to take care of yourself advice to people, have a dog.
Mm.
Have a dog. Pet the dog. Walk the dog. Train the dog, and follow behind that dog and pick up its poop.
And dispose of it in a very responsible location.
Well, and that covers the needs, your physical
Yeah.
need for
Yeah.
exercise, social need to interact with the dog and to get along with your neighbors, um, emotional because you can pet the dog and the dog just loves you back.
Yeah.
Um, spiritual, picking up that dog poop is a spiritual experience. It reminds me of my place in the universe. And so physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social, it covers all the grounds. That's the dog, and her name is Freya.
Freya.
Freya, yes.
And she's Norwegian, so that
Nor
fits. Yes.
That's right. She's a Norwegian elk-hound. So that is the advice that I give. I do other things. I'm in a 12-step program, so I go to at least one meeting a week. I work the steps. I'm active in my church. Because I have a program, I can do things a day at a time, a step at a time, let go of things that are not my business. I Thomas à Kempis is one of my favorite people to quote. There are many things, the knowledge of which is of little or no profit to one's soul. So,
Mm.
if it's not a profit to my soul, then do I need to know it? So,
Yeah.
inspired, I think my kids inspire me because, every one of them, in order to have 10 kids, they have had to go through drastic things in their
Yeah.
lives. Um, 10 kids, no pregnancies. So that means that they have all come to me with bruises and scars, sometimes
Mm.
physical, always
Sure.
emotional.
Mhm.
And I look at them and they are amazing human beings. Um, these kids had no chance. They
Mm.
had parents who were dead. They had parents who were deported. They had parents who were mentally ill. They had parents who were in prison, parents who were abusive. And if you just look at the demographics, the outcomes for those kids are not very good.
Right. Right.
But just looking at them and what they've accomplished in their lives is inspiring to me. And it says, you did okay. You did
Yeah.
okay.
That's beautiful.
It
That
was fun. It was crazy. It is
Yeah.
not something that I recommend other people do.
Not for the faint of heart, that's for sure, right?
It's not, no.
But this takes me to something I read in one of the articles that you said so beautifully and simply, like, it was love that made us a family,
Yep,
right? And,
yep,
like,
yep.
that's the bottom line.
That is
That's
it.
Yeah,
That's the whole story.
that's it. Mm.
Yep. And I think in one of the stories, I said that this family is beyond my wildest imaginations.
Mm.
Being a kid in Wheaton, Minnesota, I don't know how I thought I was gonna have 8 kids because I wasn't going to live in Wheaton, Minnesota. I don't know, but it's 10.
10.
10. And they're all responsible human beings.
I mean, cheers to the greater good, Diane. Cheers to the greater good, right? Gosh, there were so many things. Like, I could talk to you for a long time. Diane, congratulations on your nomination, and we'll
Thank
see you at the luncheon in May.
Yes, indeed.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me, too. Thank you.
Thanks. The 2026 Inspiring Women of Iowa event will be held on May 8th at the Meadows Events and Conference Center. To purchase tickets and get more information about supporting this event, please visit inspiringwomenofoiowa.com. All proceeds from this fundraising event stay 100% local to benefit Girl Scouts of Greater Iowa and their mission to build up girls of courage, confidence, and character who will make this world a better place. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.